crimson aura. The squadron leaders were astonished by Aang's sudden burst of aura. As his past persona seemed to manifest within the aura, Yao Tang was overwhelmed, recognizing aspects of Aang's former self. Aang warned Yao Tang that it was now his turn to attack. Chapter 21. Aang marveled at the way the demonic energy seemed to amplify his synchronization level. The squadron leaders, too, were astounded, witnessing what appeared to be the emergence of Helios City's long-awaited genius warrior. Yao Tang found himself overwhelmed by the substantial spike in Aang's synchronization levels, now reaching 40% and still on the rise. He couldn't help but recall that during the test, Lu had achieved only 39%. Drawing attention to himself, Aang cautioned Yao Tang not to be distracted as he prepared to launch an attack. In an instant, Aang delivered a powerful blow, which Yao Tang expertly blocked. However, Yao Tang was fascinated by Aang's increased speed and overall prowess. To his surprise, Aang had a follow-up attack ready, revealing that the initial punch had been a mere feint. Aang swiftly swept Yao Tang's legs, causing him to lose balance. Seizing the opportunity, Aang received commendation from Yao Tang for capitalizing on the brief distraction. With Yao Tang off balance, Aang executed a powerful kick, leaving Joel in awe of Aang's combat expertise. An additional observer behind them noted that engaging in close combat against someone renowned for their close combat skills was ill-advised. Intrigued, Jel and Joel turned to identify the commentator, discovering that Shuan Gong had been quietly observing the spectacle from behind. The revelation added a new layer of significance to Aang's remarkable display. The two squadron leaders felt a bit embarrassed about having to use Shuan Gong's arena for their assessment, despite calling it a minor inconvenience even though the arena had been wrecked. Shuan Gong, however, didn't mind the damage, as he was eager to witness how someone sharing the name of the greatest warrior in history would fare against Yao Tang. Meanwhile, at the arena, Yao Tang caught Aang's foot the moment he attempted a kick. Observing the scene, Shuan Gong was reminded of a young Yao Tang and his dedicated training that had made him exceptionally skilled at close combat. Seeing Yao Tang seize Aang's foot, Shuan Gong anticipated a challenging lesson for Aang. However, as Yao Tang attempted to attack Aang, it became apparent that Aang had calculated this move all along. Aang maneuvered his body to deliver a strong headbutt, freeing himself from Yao Tang's grip. Now, it was Aang's turn to take the offensive, and Yao Tang, ready for the challenge, left Joel on the sidelines fearing Yao Tang would no longer hold back. Yao Tang slammed his fist into the ground, shattering another part of the arena. Aang noted the defensive and offensive nature of the move but remained undeterred. Preparing for an explosive attack, Aang manifested an image from his crimson aura. Yao Tang was shocked to see the enormous image emerging, but Aang suddenly disappeared. The attack turned out to be a feint, with Aang positioning himself behind Yao Tang, utilizing the dust to cover his presence. This triggered Yao Tang, familiar with the move, but it was too late as Aang's fist had already breached Yao Tang's defenses. In the distance, Shuan Gong surmised that Yao Tang had lost the fight. However, at the arena, it was revealed that Aang had intentionally missed his strike. Yao Tang was shocked and questioned if Aang had missed on purpose. Calmly, Aang explained that he was aware of Yao Tang's technique of restraining opponents and that if Yao Tang hadn't held back earlier, Aang wouldn't have been able to fight back. Aang pointed out that the headbutt had disoriented Yao Tang, causing him to see afterimages of Aang, which Aang had cleverly used to his advantage. Aang proudly asked Yao Tang to confirm his genius based on their fight. Though Yao Tang still doubted, the massive fist mark on the arena wall from Aang's explosive punch indicated otherwise. Shuan Gong, witnessing the spectacle, contemplated a mysterious agenda that could turn into a possibility. Just as the fight concluded, Lu, Snow, and Tomo arrived at the arena to see what was happening. Tomo was shocked by the sight of the devastated arena. The squadron leaders gathered with Aang and Yao Tang. While Joel mocked Yao Tang for losing, Aang humbly suggested that perhaps Yao Tang was so accustomed to fighting demons that a human opponent presented a new challenge. Acknowledging Aang's humility, Shuan Gong called them off to celebrate with dinner as the test had concluded. Aang gladly accepted the invitation, as he was starving, and went ahead. As Aang walked past him, Shu and Gong pondered the young man's positive demeanor and prowess. Then, looking at his daughter Lu, he bluntly asked if she could be interested in Aang. The outrageous question both shocked and embarrassed her. Chapter 22. At the Situ Manor, warriors gathered in the dining room for a celebratory feast hosted by the homeowner, Situ Shu and Gong. They raised their glasses to commemorate the successful defense against the hordes of monsters that had recently attacked the city. Shu and Gong specifically toasted to Aang, the man who had saved his daughter Lu. Aang, displaying humility, declined the honor, asserting that it was a warrior's duty. As he attempted to drink a glass of wine, Yao Tang playfully knocked his head, reminding him that he was still underage. Aang argued that he was already 18, a requisite age for participating in the warrior exam. Shu and Gong agreed, glancing at his daughter, Lu, a glance laden with meaning based on their earlier conversation. Following the warriors' departure from the arena, Shu and Gong and Lu had discussed Aang. Shu and Gong admired Aang's talent and capabilities, subtly probing his daughter to discern if she was attracted to him. Despite Lu's high pride, she struggled to respond, feeling outraged at her father's traditional stance and desiring the freedom to choose someone based on attraction. Instead, she deflected by recounting Aang's earlier, seemingly foolish, move of almost undressing her. Returning to the present, Tomo expressed amusement at the delicious food before them, capturing the moment with her camera. Snow revived the inquiry about how Aang had repelled the one-finned demon. Caught off guard, Aang stuttered in response, but Yao Tang intervened, explaining how Aang could utilize the core's power to boost his strength exponentially. Gel added her insights, drawing parallels between Aang's ability and the squadron leader's capacity to utilize their cores. She emphasized the potential dangers, reiterating that Aang lacked proper training. Joel, alongside her, commented on Aang's spiked strength during their spar, suggesting that Aang needed more training to prevent his body from being overwhelmed by the energy he absorbed. Amidst the squadron leader's patronizing comments about his supposedly weak body, Aang remained silent. He resisted the urge to disclose the truth about absorbing the two one-fin demon's cores and utilizing the demon's regeneration ability to compensate for the toll of enormous energy. Exposing these details would only invite further suspicion, so he chose to keep them to himself for now. Playing along with the squadron leader's perception of him seemed the wiser course of action. Joining the conversation, Aang agreed with the squadron leaders, maintaining the facade of having a weak body in need of more training. Snow was amazed at this new revelation of Aang's ability and vowed not to lag behind him. Even Lu, who had initially doubted Aang, was amazed and surrendered to the idea since he had saved her. Yao Tang shifted the conversation to Aang and Lu's violation of the city rules by going out at night. Initially planned for punishment, their actions had been cancelled due to their successful defeat of a one-fin demon, much to Aang and Lu's relief. However, Joel reminded them that the squad competitions were ongoing, cautioning them not to be too celebratory about their vindication. Gel added a reminder that their squad still held the lowest rank, urging Aang and Lu to push themselves harder if they aimed to reach the top. Aang wholeheartedly agreed, proudly declaring their determination to aim for the highest rank. A month passed since the demon invasion, and the competition for team points reached its peak. Teams, in pursuit of more points, began taking on A-ranked missions, making them increasingly difficult to obtain due to scarcity. In response, Lu and the squad deliberated and arrived at a crucial decision. They opted to seek what many might term a fat sheep or a golden goose, meaning they would use their points to challenge other teams. The Black Gun Squad, encountered earlier, became their first target. Approaching them, Aang and his team challenged them to a solo battle for 10 points. The leader of the Black Gun Squad hesitated due to the high value of the bet but eventually agreed, boldly proclaiming that this time, there would be no squadron leader to intervene, allowing them to beat Aang's squad without restraint. At the town battle arena, a sizable crowd had gathered to witness the clash between the two squads. Many onlookers mocked and criticized Aang's team, dismissing their move as desperate and expecting them to fail. Beneath the stage, Aang and Black Gun engaged in conversation as Lu and Black Gun's teammate ascended the arena for their bout. Black Gun arrogantly urged Aang to admit defeat while he still could, but Aang remained calm, asserting that the true winner had yet to be determined. Aang questioned why Black Gun wasn't the one representing their squad, considering Lu was supposed to be his match as the leader of Aang's team. Black